Hi, my name is Jim Bodel with Acuity Process Solutions based in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. We're a nationally recognized master distributor for Alfa Laval digital capacitive load cells. Today is the fourth in a series of seminars that we're putting on that are designed to help our clients understand the operation and setup of the Alfa Laval 5024 digital display. Today's session is going to focus on the concepts of coarse tearing and calibrating the systems. So I actually have a system sitting right here, and I'd like to bring the camera over to it. If you can bear with me, it's going to be a little bit bumpy as I do it, but hopefully this will help you see the screen a little bit better. So, okay, that's the system right there. And we've gone through in previous sessions what the components are and what the setup is. You can see the load cells themselves right in there. Okay. So I'm going to move this over, and I'm actually setting the camera right on the load cells, and I'm going to zoom in here for you so you can see the buttons a little bit better. So let's get the camera on it there. And if I can take the zoom in here, I'm going to have to lift it up just a little bit, it looks like. Okay. All right, hopefully you can see that. Maybe just a little bit more of a zoom. Okay. So let me back out of the system here, back to a main screen. So if you, by the way, that's reading 1.54 kilograms because I've got the camera sitting on it. If I wanted to zero it out, all I would do is hit the 0 button. So this is the main screen of the system here, and we've gone through in previous sessions what the buttons indicate and how to navigate through the system. So we're not going to spend time on that today. We're going to approach today's session as if I had just built a system, put the load cells on it, and had the empty vessel sitting on top of it, which is pretty typical. And if you think about it, when you're weighing something, if I build a skid, put my load cells on it, and set a tank on it, it's going to read the weight of the tank. So what I have to first do is take the tank weight out of the equation so that we can then measure what's important to us, which is likely the volume in the tank. So to do that, we enter into our menu screen, and this is, as I said earlier, the button you're going to use the most as you move through this. Important to note, we're going to enter into the service mode, but it's important to note that when you enter this, you really need to make sure that the system is unlocked. And to do that, you're going to go into the service mode, setup mode rather, and then hit the menu button again, and you'll see that system gets highlighted. When it does, if you hit the enter button, if you look at the parameters thing, the second one down, you'll see here that it says unlocked because I unlocked it a minute ago. Normally what happens with the system, just so you know, while you're in the configuration and setup, it will not automatically relock itself. But once you leave that and go back to the main screen, it will relock itself after a certain period of time. I don't know exactly what it is, but it might be 30 seconds, but it will relock itself, and then you have to go through the unlock process. So we've confirmed that we're unlocked. Now, remember, we just went into, from the main screen, we went into the service mode. If we hit menu again, we're going to enter the weighing option. This is where most of the magic happens. And we've been through this screen earlier and showed everybody what this means. So I'm not going to waste time with that again. But once I'd entered the weighing setup, if I hit menu again, you'll see right here where I can get into coarse tear. And if I move down to that, it's important for you to understand what you're looking at when you see this. If you look here, you'll see in the lower section, it's seeing all 3 load cells of the system that I have here, and it's got a combined total up at the top right. And you're going to note that those numbers are negative. Now, why would they be negative? Again, go back to our example. We build the system, we put the tank on the system, we have to subtract out the weight of that tank, and that's what's happening here. This had been coarse teared before, but we've changed because we just put the camera on it, so these are not coarse teared right now. For me to do that, what I would do is enter the menu screen once more, my favorite button, and drop down to perform coarse tear, and as soon as you highlight that and hit return, you've just coarse teared the system. Now, if you look, these numbers match each other. They didn't just a minute ago. So now it's saying to me, okay, I put the camera on the cells. Let's back the weight of that out too, and that's what it's doing. Okay? So once you've done that, that's as simple as coarse tearing. You've coarse teared. Now I'm sitting, go back to our example. Now we have our tanks sitting on our load cells. We've coarse teared it out. It's out of the equation. Now we have to calibrate the system. And what does that mean? These systems, these load cells generate a digital signal within the load cell. that signal doesn't mean anything to you and me. We have to translate that so that the system understands it. And to do that, the system applies a factor to the load cells. Now, let me back up here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If we're in that weighing mode and we hit menu, we just did the coarse tare. Let's move down and do the calibration. If we look here, this is the factor I was talking about. The system applies that to the signal being generated by the load cell to convert that signal into a weighing number that we understand. So whether it's pounds or kilograms, the factor is the same, but it's applied to it to teach or tell this module what it means. And it's important to know, when I'm in this calibration screen, that number that you see there, 524,288, that is the standard calibration factor that is on every single load cell system that Alfa Laval ships. Okay, so it's important to understand that that's the basic number that we start with. When you do a calibration to that system, and we'll go through it in a moment, that number will likely change if the system isn't 100% accurately calibrated. I can either do a calibration process or I can force that number to change without going through a calibration process, although that's not very common. If you wanted to just arbitrarily change it, you could enter here and enter a different calibration factor and change it. But that's not what we're doing here today. We're going to show you how to actually go through a correct calibration. So now you'll notice that there's nothing sitting on the load cells. That number right there is actually reading. Watch, if I push on this, since we've coarse tared, the camera's sitting on them, but we just told the system to forget about the camera. Okay, so now it's reading 0. I'm going to put a known weight on one of these cells. Okay, and that weight is going to read 1.50 approximately. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see here, I have the option, if I drop down into that screen, if I had a known weight that weighed 1.50 kilograms, and I'm bumping the camera here a little bit, so I'm sorry, that thing's got to stabilize, but if I had a known weight, if I went in here and said, okay, I know that the weight weighs 1.50 kilograms, that's what the system should be weighing. I'm going to enter that number here. So we've gone through in a different session about how to enter numbers, so I'm not going to waste time on that. But imagine we did that. Now we know this thing is 1.50. Once I enter that in there, I hit menu again and I say perform calibration. And once I do that, now you look at the two numbers, they're the same. The system is calibrated. If I take this off, okay, you'll see that it drops down to nothing. But if I put it back on again, and actually this is not a good sample because I don't know for sure, but there's the 1.50 again. So that's as simple as it is to perform a calibration on this system. The steps involved are basically to coarse tare the system and zero it out, okay, and basically eliminate the load of the empty tank from it. And then the next step is to perform the calibration with a known weight. Now, in most cases on smaller tanks, they use calibrated weight sets to come out and do the calibration. So they'll load in 100 kilograms of known weight, set the system at 100, and hit perform calibration. When you get into larger systems, it's hard to load in the calibrated weight. So for example, if I have a 2,000 kilogram tank, it's hard to load 2,000 kilograms in. So what do they do instead? They usually use a calibrated flow meter and they'll load the tank with a known amount of water, because we know what the specific gravity of water is, and the flow meter will tell you how much volume went in. You can calculate the mass and use that to calibrate. So I hope you found this to be helpful. We have a couple other sessions to do moving forward, and I hope you'll join us for those. But in the meantime, if you have any questions or need any additional information, you can always reach us at Acuity Process Solutions, and our phone number is area code 508-809-5099 or www.acuityprocess.com. Thank you very much for joining us, and hope it was helpful.